One time I was having my breakfast at like 9 a.m. and the FBI showed up at my house that I was renting, and that was quite surprising. And I thought, we're getting too much attention here. It's probably not the best environment to run.
Why would had you committed a crime?
No.
The problem of communication and free speech, one of the issues that Bobby Kennedy has brought to the forefront, continues at large. You might not be aware that Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, has been arrested in France, because what they always claim is that Telegram, that's used by criminals. It's criminals that use Telegram to communicate, in the same way that they would say that X platform's racist and lunatics or whatever. But if you really had a moral position on whether or not a platform was dubious, then surely you would be concerned about Meta's recent accusation of child exploitation. So let's have a look at the arrest of Peter Durov, what Telegram is about, and what tech billionaires are good and what tech platforms are bad. Let's have a look at that now.
Now, the billionaire founder of encrypted messaging app Telegram has been arrested in France. Pavel Durov was reportedly detained after his private jet landed at the Bourget airport outside Paris. Telegram is one of the most downloaded apps in the world, and it's particularly popular in Russia. But its focus on privacy has raised questions about its use by criminals. So
criminals? We don't mean the kind of criminals that have global insidious power. We mean like little criminals that don't really need to worry about.
What do we know about this arrest then?
So firstly, just a bit about who he is, because he's not exactly a household name. He's Russian-born, gained French citizenship a few years ago, but he's really famed for founding this encrypted private messaging app.
Encrypted, eh? You mean privacy could be possible for people instead of privacy for the state and absolute transparency for the people, when what you could argue would be a good model is transparency for the state, because that's your money they're using to control you, and privacy for people, because you have a sacred right to privacy.
Telegram, and suggestions in French local media this morning that the arrest and potential investigation relates to this app for its potential lack of moderation and potential criminal activity.
Not being moderated. You're not letting the government moderate it. You're not letting us control you. Let us control you. You're probably a pervert or a racist or something. There must be something we can get you for.
But just for some context about the app, because it's actually not potentially as well known here as it is across the globe. It's one of the most downloaded.
You may not have been conditioned to hate this yet, so let me condition you now.
Apps after the likes of Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, with upwards of 950 million users. It's an encrypted private messaging app, effectively protecting data from being intercepted with, as you said, a big focus on privacy.
Privacy bad.
It's been in recent years particularly popular in Russia and Ukraine.
Russia bad.
Ukraine. It was actually banned back in 2018 in Russia because of its refusal to release data.
Confusing now.
And for people here, well, it's really been talked about in recent months and recent weeks because of what we've seen on the streets in parts of northern England and elsewhere, riots.
Probably it did a riot, did it? Probably Telegram caused the riot, did it? Probably none of us should be allowed privacy, should we? Probably we should just let the government plant chips inside our mind and observe our every thought while the government just does what it does best over there. Perpetual wars. I'm still sure they've got our best interests at heart.
Many of those riots, protests as well, were advertised on Telegram by far-right groups, also advertised selling the likes of flares and fireworks.
For a wonderful moment, I thought they meant flared trousers. I thought, my God, this censorship's getting harder and harder. Those trousers are not narrow enough. Get to prison. Okay.
So that's probably why people might have heard about it over here. But Mr. Durov actually did an interview with the American right-wing commentator back in April, a man called Tucker Carlson. People might know him from Fox News.
He's bad as well. He won't do what he's told.
And he actually said there that he wants to keep the app away from geopolitics. And that interview did, though, actually lead to kind of accusations that he was trying to kind of court the right-wing press. Tucker Carlson has tweeted to say that he believes Mr. Durov has been arrested because of his refusal to censor the truth, obviously relating to the app and its kind of private encrypted nature. So lots of speculation about exactly why he was arrested when he landed at that French airport just north of Paris earlier today. But clearly there'll be, the Russian Foreign Ministry, for example, have said that it's looking into the circumstances to try and clarify the situation.
Here is his conversation with Tucker Carlson, and he probably is a bad person. Otherwise, why would you want privacy?
We get too much attention from the FBI, the security agencies, wherever we came to the US. So to give you an example, last time I was in the US, I brought an engineer that is working for Telegram, and there was an attempt to secretly hire my engineer behind my back by cybersecurity officers or agents, wherever they are called.
The U.S. government should hire your engineer?
That's my understanding. That's what he told me.
To write code for them or to break into Telegram?
They were curious to learn which open source libraries are integrated to the Telegram's app, on the client side, and they were trying to persuade him to use certain open source tools that he would then integrate into the Telegram's code that, in my understanding, would serve as backdoors.
Would allow the U.S. government to spy on people who use Telegram? The
U.S. government, or maybe any other government, because a backdoor is a backdoor regardless of who is using it.
That's right. And that's a little surprising to hear. Maybe it's not surprising. It's offensive. You're confident that happened?
Yes. There is no reason for my engineer to make up the stories. Also because I personally experienced similar pressure in the US. Whenever I would go to the US, I would have two FBI agents greeting me at the airport, asking questions. One time I was having my breakfast at like 9 a.m. and the FBI showed up at my house that I was renting. And that was quite surprising. And I thought, we're getting too much attention here. It's probably not the best environment to run.
Why would had you committed a crime?
No, they were interested to learn more about Telegram. They knew I, left Russia. They knew what we were doing, but they wanted details. And my understanding is that they wanted to establish a relationship to kind of, in a way, control Telegram better. I understand that they were doing their job. It's just that for us running a privacy-focused social media platform, that probably wasn't the best environment to be in. We want to be focused on what we do, not on government relations of that sort.
What it increasingly seems like is that wherever there is the opportunity for private communication and free speech, your government and their global backers are looking for ways to smear and prevent that from happening. They're looking for ways to undermine it. Any way that you might have potential freedom via which you might explore alternatives to their tyrannical centralized control is being endlessly examined and shut down. We can't continue to bring you this awakening and hopefully enjoyable content without the support of our partners. That's why I've got to ask you, and I'm glad to ask you, are you struggling with back taxes or unfiled returns? The IRS is escalating collections, adding, get this, 20,000 new agents and sending over 5 million collection letters to kick off 2024 to spend on things that you probably don't agree with, like wars and measures and a total lack of infrastructure. In these challenging times, your best defense is Tax Network USA. Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. With over 14 years of experience, Tax Network USA have saved their clients over $1 billion in back taxes. No matter the size of your tax issue, their expertise is your advantage. They specialize in negotiating with the IRS, aiming to significantly reduce your debt. Tax Network USA doesn't just negotiate, they also protect your assets from IRS seizures and manage your yearly returns for ongoing compliance. Importantly, they are licensed to help you with all state tax issues, regardless of where you live in the United States. The clock is ticking. Don't wait as the IRS steps up its game. Seize control of your financial future now. Contact Tax Network USA for immediate relief and expert guidance. Visit taxnetworkusa.com/ brand. Don't let tax issues overpower you. Turn to Tax Network USA and find your path to financial peace of mind. Right, let's get back to this content. On the other hand, compliant big tech organizations, compliant platforms seem to be able to get away with things that elsewhere might be considered a little bit criminal. Let's have a look at Elon Musk commenting on the story that Meta have been accused of child exploitation. Because he's already caved into censorship pressure, Instagram has a massive child exploitation problem, but no arrest for Zuck as he censors free speech and gives governments backdoor access to user data. Now, when you saw Pavel talking about that potential employment at the beginning of the video by the government of one of his former staff members, you'll see how insidious and immersive the attempts are to get absolute control. And if you've watched our content and seen our conversation, for example, with Mike Benz, where he talked about how Serge Brin and Larry Page, founders of Google, had their PhD at Stanford, I think, funded by a CIA cutout, it's likely that backdoor access to the deep state of big tech platforms is baked into the a more diaphanous connection between big tech and government. In short, if a big tech company does not comply with the government, they will face opposition. They will personally smear the founder or use lawfare against them or bring them down in some way so that they can maintain complete control of not only actual physical space, but almost your psychic space, the space inside yourself. They want to colonize that in the same way that they might have once colonized physical territory. Let's have a look at the news reporting on this child exploitation story.
Facebook and Instagram. New Mexico's Attorney General is accusing the social media giant and its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, of enabling child sex abuse and trafficking on its sites. CBS News senior business and technology correspondent Jolene Kent reports on the undercover investigation that used AI.
It was shocking, quite frankly, to see the explosion of sexual interest in these kids almost immediately.
New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres says his investigation into Meta found that Facebook and Instagram's algorithms created a marketplace for the sexual exploitation of children. The civil lawsuit alleges Meta enabled adults to find, message, and groom minors, soliciting them to sell pictures or participate in pornographic videos. Law enforcement set up an undercover operation using test accounts like this one, showing AI-generated photos of a fictional 13-year-old girl from Albuquerque. The complaint says followers flooded the account with unsolicited messages, filled with pictures and videos of genitalia, which she received at least 3 to 4 times per week.
That would strike me as a parent as a pretty staggering and important issue. And if the genuine concern of the government when pushing for censorship is the protection of children, then surely they'd care about that. In the same way, they might care, for example, about other aspects of child safety, like their health and the food that they eat. That's why issues are important in this election. And that's why when it comes to censorship, you have to think about who you're granting the authority to censor to. Can you trust them, or are they simply using child safety as one of the means via which they can gain control over your freedom to communicate? Because if it is actually about child safety, then they should be addressing this issue. Apparently, this has had to be pursued as a civil matter, which is perhaps an indication that legally there was foreclosures of the usual portals that would be pursued. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments in the chat? Good billionaires, bad billionaires. Good tech billionaires and tech platforms, bad billionaires and tech platforms. I wonder what the continuum and the theme is. I wonder if some people are smeared and condemned and controlled, whereas others are celebrated. I don't know. Look into it. I don't have a great deal of personal experience on the matter. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.